This is the 10 o'clock news.
A presidential visit from a president under fire. Good evening, I'm Cynthia Santana.
And I'm Harry Martin. Bill Clinton is in town tonight getting ready to appear on the world stage at the United Nations tomorrow. But his administration is under fire as the Justice Department gets ready to take the first steps in naming a special prosecutor. Wendy Birch has more on what all of this means and where it could all end up for the president. Wendy, what do you have?
Harry, President and Mrs. Clinton are in New York City this evening, staying at the Waldorf Astoria, the hotel you see behind me. Now, they arrived late this afternoon from Washington, D.C. in their helicopter. They landed on the Upper East Side. Then their motorcade escorted them here to Midtown Manhattan and to the Waldorf. Now, the president is here to speak to the United Nations tomorrow, but news out of the Justice Department is that his office will have to be immediately ready to address the issue of campaign fundraising. A 30-day probe by the Justice Department intends to answer a couple of key questions, including could a few telephone calls be a crime, and was the president ever on the other end of the line?
There's a 114-year-old law on the books that makes it a felony for anyone to solicit federal money in a federal workplace. Former Deputy Chief of Staff Harold Ickes has already admitted to urging the president to dial in such requests, says he even prepared a script, and has testified Clinton actually made a few of those calls from the Oval Office. But the president says he doesn't remember making any of them.
I don't want to flat out say I never did something that I might in fact have done just because I don't remember it.
The Justice Department has 30 days to decide whether or not a more thorough 90-day investigation is needed. If it gets to that point, it will then be up to Janet Reno to determine if the whole matter should be turned over to independent counsel. The kinds of donations that will raise red flags along the way are the ones that go into a so-called hard money account. Money that funnels directly to federal candidates. The law is clear that that's a crime, but many Democrats have issue with how it's enforced.
There's ambiguity in this law, and the question is, should the president and vice president be treated any worse than members of the Senate who have made these same calls?
But critics say no other administration has ever picked up the phone so frequently.
The law says it shall be unlawful to solicit or receive in federal buildings, and they did a lot of it. Lots of phone calls, not just one or two.
But all of the attention isn't keeping the president away from the fundraising trail. He attended 3 separate fundraisers yesterday in California. The goal was to collect almost $1 million for the debt-ridden Democratic Party.
And speaking of debt, that will be one of the main topics of President Clinton's speech tomorrow to the UN. Only there he will be addressing the debt Washington, D.C. owes to the United Nations. With the president in Midtown Manhattan, Wendy Birch, Fox 5 Live.
All right, Wendy, thank you very much. And if all of this sounds familiar, it's because Vice President Al Gore faces a similar probe. Gore is also accused of making fundraising calls from the White House and of attending a fundraiser at a Buddhist temple run by monks who had taken a vow of poverty.
It was a big campaign night for Mayor